So next week, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, Deadpool 2, will be released. I'm so excited for this one. Like everyone else, I loved the original one, was so excited just because of the backstory of how long Ryan Reynolds and Tim Miller worked to bring that movie to the screen. And now we've got the second one coming out. The marketing's been very strong for this one. But every time there's one of these movies like this that's one of my most anticipated movies of the year, I always go into it and pause beforehand and think, it could suck. It could suck. I don't think it will suck. I'm very excited for it. I'm sure it's going to be great, but it could suck. So this video, I'm going to tell you the 3 reasons that I think that Deadpool 2 could possibly suck. Now, before you get too mad at me about this video, no, tomorrow I will be putting out a counter video where I give you my reasons. It will be awesome. Before I dive into this one though, how about you? Tell me the reasons you're nervous about this movie. Why do you think this one could not live up to the expectations? Might be a disappointment. Tell me down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. With that said, let's get started. Reason number 1 that Deadpool 2 could suck is that there's no Tim Miller. So one of the things that was so special about the original Deadpool was that backstory about where the movie came from, which is that way back in 2010, Ryan Reynolds, Tim Miller, and the writers all started working on this project for Deadpool, and they worked behind the scenes to make it happen, shot demo footage, leaked the demo footage. Finally, a studio greenlit it. They worked hard. It was a passion project for all of them, and then it just showed on screen. So when they went into the second movie, we all assumed that all was going to be hunky-dory between all of them going into the second movie. They'd have a shared vision, bring it to the screen, and we'd see more Deadpool from this same creative team. And very early on, it was clear that there was conflicting visions between Ryan Reynolds and Tim Miller, and eventually Tim Miller left the project because of these competing visions as to what they wanted to do with the film. And essentially, Tim Miller wanted to do a big budget superhero movie, and Ryan Reynolds did not want to do that. And then actually, Tim Miller even made some comments since after all that went down where he said, it will be nothing new, and has criticized the film. So going into this movie, I'm a little bit nervous simply because I don't know what all that means. I don't know if he had the better vision, if he was the person that brought the original one together, or if it was Ryan Reynolds, if it was the writer. So I don't know which is the secret sauce that made the movie work, but it worked. It worked really well. So the fact that you take one of the absolute key pieces, the director of the movie, out of the project, have some conflict going into it, and it's not like there was a long ramp-up time for Deadpool 2. I mean, it's only slightly over 2 years on this, and so that makes me a little bit nervous going into this movie. That did they have enough time to kind of veer things in the right direction? Did we need Tim Miller? I don't know. We'll find out very shortly. Reason number 2 that Deadpool 2 could suck is that the replacement director they got is director David Leitch. Now, if you don't know who this is one of the 2 directors that worked on the original John Wick. And obviously, John Wick was just one of those movies that kind of literally came out of nowhere. It wasn't on anyone's radar. The trailer didn't come out until a month before the movie came out. And we're like, what? Keanu Reeves killing people over a dog? And then the movie came out. And it was great and kind of had this very distinct style to the action with the movie. So after it came out, both the directors that worked on it have had all sorts of offers thrown at them. And so last year, this director had a movie come out called Atomic Blonde, which once again had a great style to it, distinctive and kind of the color palette, in the action, once again, the way it did titles. But the storytelling on it was not so strong. The very muddled type of story to it. So if you wanted cool action and cool kind of shots and style, you got that. Style, but not the substance to it, not the meat to it. And the real reason that I'm nervous about him as the director for the movie isn't so much because of Atomic Blonde last year, but more so because Deadpool has such a distinct sense of humor to it. And humor is all about timing and framing things, setting things up just right. And you have to know how to do that. And you don't watch John Wick and think, oh, Deadpool, it's just like Deadpool. You don't watch Atomic Blonde and think, next step, Deadpool. And so him is the person they selected to do it. I'm sure the action will be great. It'll have a great style to it. but will he be able to nail the timing, the setups of the humor and all of it? In particular, when you got someone like Ryan Reynolds that's just so high energy, motor mouth. Can he pull that off, bring it to the screen, and make it work just right? I don't know. I haven't seen him do this type of humor before. So when I see his name, potentially that key element for it might not work. And the third and final reason that Deadpool 2 could suck is the comedy sequel curse. Comedy sequels don't, generally speaking, have the best reputation. Whether you go back to the 80s, Caddyshack 2, whether you think back about 8 years ago, the original Hangover came out and it was just loved by people. The two sequels, not so much. Or even you think of something that's not a full-blown comedy, but kind of quirky action mix with Kingsman 2 that came out last year. People loved the first Kingsman. Second Kingsman, not so much. And so when they announced a Deadpool 2, my first reaction was like, that's awesome. My second one was, man, movies that have this type of energy, lightning in a bottle. Wow, what a great experience. Where did that come from? That was so great. Those are the types of movies I get the most nervous about. And can they capture that again in the second movie? Can they find a way to make it still feel fresh and not feel like we're just rehashing gags, not just trying to outdo what they did in the last movie? Will they be able to pull it off? That's kind of really the ultimately, the director swap and all of that, that makes me a little nervous. But comedy sequels, that is such a fine thing. I mean, you had the example of 22 Jump Street a few years back. They did it. They pulled it off. They found a way to do a quirky comedy, follow up with a second one that maintained it and built upon it without just feeling like a rehash. Is this going to be The Hangover 2, or is this going to be 22 Jump Street? Is this going to be Kingsman 2, or is this going to be, I don't know. I don't know what another second example of a comedy sequel that really pulled it off. I'm not pulling one to mind, especially kind of this action genre where you pull in a bunch of different genres into it. I just don't know. So those are my three reasons that I'm nervous that potentially Deadpool 2 could suck. Granted, as I said at the beginning, I'm sure it's going to be great. They put out some initial reactions. The first screenings of it were last night, or as of the time you guys are watching it, Thursday night, 2 days ago, and seemed positive. I only saw a couple of reactions on Twitter, and they were all positive that I saw. So I'm sure it's going to be great, but I just get nervous about these types of sequels in particular, especially ones where you had some director swaps in there with a director that's not quite proven in this particular genre itself. So anyway, there's my take on it. How about you? Why are you nervous about Deadpool 2? Why do you think it potentially might not live up to the expectations? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, sometimes these sorts of editorials right here where I give you my thoughts on why I think something might be great or might potentially suck. People get mad at me when I do the suck part. Whenever I talk about, I get them amped up while they're excited. They're like, yeah, this is awesome. And they get mad at me when I just put ideas out there. I'm not saying it's gonna suck. I'm sure it's gonna be great. So please don't get too mad at me. But I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. So join me down in the comment section, even if you are mad at me for making this video. And as always, thank you for watching.